UFC 304 has gotten a grand total of 4 new fights added to the card. For anybody who doesn't know, the card is as follows. Paddy Pimblett versus Bobby Green, Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze, Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades, Mohamed Mokaev versus Manel Cap, I think it's Moses Cap now, but whatever. And the main event is going to be Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. I know the Tom Aspinall one's out of order, but that's the main card right there. And instead of making a video talking about the main card like every other YouTuber on here is, I want to talk about the finer points of one of the fights on there because I think it's a pretty interesting thing. And Uncle Chael said something about that matchup that I think is very interesting. And that is the Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades fight. The Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades fight, I think, is going to carry the most interesting how this is going to change the UFC. Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades is very interesting. Not only is it Tom Aspinall potentially getting a win back from Curtis Blades, a guy who does have a win over him. No, this is the interim champion getting a defense before the undisputed. For anybody who's new to combat sports, understand that almost never happens, okay? In the entirety of the UFC's history, it's 31 years of running, there's only been 2 times where the interim has had to defend the belt. This is the only time where the interim is going to have more title defenses than the undisputed. And I think this is going to put the UFC in a pretty interesting position here. Because 100% they did not expect to put Tom Aspinall in this situation. I think there's a reason that they waited to solidify this matchup and make it official just a week after Jon Jones vs. Stipe Miocic is made official for UFC 309. And I am going to say this. I made a video a while back predicting when each of the UFC main events are going to be from now all the way to the end of the year. I got UFC 309 right. I predicted it was going to be Jon Jones versus Stipe or Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. But I prefaced it's most likely going to be Stipe. So I'm going to say I got that one right. But the part that sucks about it is now Tom Aspinall is in a weird spot where he is the forever interim? Like, he's the interim guy. The number one contender. The champion if there's no champion. So why does the champion get to come back and defend the title? Like, against a guy who is so clearly not a number one contender, it's hilarious. Like, this isn't like a situation where Jon Jones is coming back and fighting Cyril Gane again. This is not Jon Jones coming back and fighting Sergey Pavlovich. This is not Jon Jones coming back and even fighting, Derek Lewis coming off a win. This is Jon Jones coming back fighting against a dude who is also coming back after a 2-year hiatus and 4-year hiatus of ever winning a fight. Okay? That's the problem that I have with this matchup. And the reason I want to make this video, caused my interest in it, is because Chael Sonnen did an interview with Demetrius Johnson, and he said something really interesting. He said, Tom Aspinall will only ever be the interim until Jon Jones steps foot into that cage against Stipe. The moment Jon Jones is officially fighting Stipe Miocic, Tom Aspinall, whether he's in the crowd, at home with his kids, or training in a training camp, will be stripped of the title. And a lot of people heard that and tried dunking on Chael for this. And here's the thing. I don't agree with Chael, because I don't agree that the UFC should be doing that. However, if you think the UFC is above, completely disrespecting their interim champions, dog, might I remind you that Colby Covington has an interim champion, was supposed to fight Tyron Woodley, and they gave it to Kamaru Usman anyways. And that's how Usman won the undisputed. Because Colby Covington just kind of got, we don't really need you, you're boring. The UFC was going to cut Colby when he fought Damian Maia. The UFC has a history of not really respecting their interims because they don't really need to. My argument is, and even Jon Jones makes a pretty compelling argument, is the UFC should have just never put on the interim. I agree, but that doesn't get us out of the situation. That's like getting into a car accident and seeing the insurance and premium and then being like, well, a very easy way to solve this issue is just if I never got into the car accident. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, no shit, we shouldn't have put the interim up for grabs. But you know what would have fixed this entire issue, John? if you never torn your fucking pec. That would have fixed the entire issue if we're going to play this game. You caused this issue, Jon Jones. Like, if you're going to say Tom Aspinall being an interim champion caused the issue, technically you did. Another way you could have solved this, and how the UFC has kind of fumbled this every which way, I don't think they purposely did this until we're getting up to it. I'll explain it in a second. But the UFC refused to call Stipe Miocic to fight Sergey Pavlovich. So, I think you guys already know this backstory. Sergey Pavlovich was the official backup for UFC 295. If anybody were to fall out between Stipe and Jon Jones, Sergey Pavlovich was going to step up for the interim belt. And Jon Jones was the guy that stepped down. I think they figured that if anybody was going to step down, it was going to be Stipe, and they would have made that fight. So, Jon Jones isn't able to make the fight, and they don't even call Stipe, so they call up Tom Aspinall, a guy who was coming off a win, who was rumored to be fighting Cyril Gane in Paris, but Gane turned him down. So that fight was supposed to happen. So they call up Tom Aspinall, who is on vacation apparently, and he comes in 10 days notice and gets it done against Sergey. And that's how we got the interim. That's what got us into this issue. It wasn't this thing that Tom Aspinall did. No, Tom Aspinall stepped up for a company man. And I fully believe the UFC was going to leave Tom Aspinall to do absolutely nothing until Jon Jones beat Stipe. I will say it right now, this whole idea that Jon Jones is going to fight multiple fights started after Tom Aspinall won the interim. Because the fact is the only way that you can justify Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic is if it's his final fight, it's a legacy fight. We'll let it pass. You're not holding up the division if you're not going to be the champion anymore. But now, Tom Aspinall is the clear interim, defending the title at UFC 304 officially against Curtis Blades. Understand, that will count as a title defense for him. But where the question lies is Jon Jones has been made official for the main event of of the Madison Square Garden card, UFC 309. So you got 304, 309. You see the problem that we're in now. 309 is far enough away from 304 that Tom Aspinall can fight on that card. If I'm Tom Aspinall, I'm going to be as petty as I possibly can. If the UFC wants to strip me of my interim title at UFC 309, because they can do that, and they have done it, if they want to play that game, then I am going to fight another time in between. I think Tom Aspinall is going to roll up Curtis Blades and smoke him. I think he wins that fight fairly easily. And I think after that, Tom Aspinall should make a call out for Cyril Gane. At that point, Tom Aspinall would have beaten Sergey Pavlovich for the title. And then he would have defended the title against Curtis Blades. And if Jon Jones really isn't coming back, even if it's 307, that still would be enough time for Tom Aspinall to make a turnaround from 304 all the way to 306. Does all of that. Tom Aspinall is able to defend the title against a Cyril Gane. The dude that Jon Jones beat to get the title. Jon Jones is spiraling on Twitter at this point. I've made a video going over that. But like to give you some highlights, Jon Jones argued that the reason that he should be fighting Stipe Miocic is because we would be screwing over Stipe's family if he didn't get paid that money. Since when do you give a shit about somebody else's family? I'm sorry. What are you talking about, John? Another weak point that he made up is, well, Tom Aspinall won his title off fighting a contender. Who the fuck did you beat to get your title? You beat Cyril Gane, a dude who already lost to Francis. Like, what's your point? Cyril Gane earned a title shot because he was almost to beat Francis Ngannou. Sergey Pavlovich earned a chance to fight for the title because he was scary. Tom Aspinall earned it because he's also scary, and he's a company man, and he wins the interim. We're going to be in a very interesting. It's going to be pretty interesting in the next couple of months because we are going to have a situation from UFC 304 on. If Tom Aspinall is able to beat Curtis Blades, we are going to have an interim champion with more title defenses. And if I'm Tom Aspinall, I am going to make it hell for Jon Jones. I'm calling up MMA Guru to give me the script of what I should be saying once I beat Curtis Blades to insert this Jon Jones fight. Understand, Tom Aspinall should be lobbying for this Jon Jones fight. Because now this Jon Jones for Stipe Miocic's case is weaker than it's ever been. I just wanted to take some time to talk about that, this whole Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades thing that's been official now. And I think it's going to make the UFC into a real interesting discussion for heavyweight. And frankly, it's probably the most interesting thing to happen to heavyweight in a very long time. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below, and have a great day. Adios, guys.